Westgate Hotel reportedly haunted by a spirit who has not left the building. Elvis Presley. 13 Action News anchor Jackie Kostick takes you inside.
Elvis Presley didn't just leave behind music. He might still be roaming the earth. One farmer claims to have seen the king himself, gliding through his fields, delivering a chilling farewell right after Elvis died. We're diving deep into the top 10 creepiest Elvis ghost sightings that will leave you stunned. From impersonators that weren't quite human to haunted apartments, these stories are guaranteed to give you goosebumps. And let us get ready for the final twist, one that could change everything you thought you knew about Elvis's spirit. Number 10. The Farmer's Unwanted Goodbye. Ever wondered if Elvis still roams around, pulling ghostly pranks and showing up in the places he used to love? Well, buckle up, because we're diving into the top 10 spookiest stories about the king. These eerie tales might have you sleeping with the lights on, or at least rolling your eyes at just how absurd some of these ghostly sightings can be. Whether you're a devoted fan or just someone who likes a creepy bedtime story, this collection of weird tales has something for everyone. And let me tell you, the last story, it's a doozy. So stick around if you're up for a final twist that'll make you scratch your head. But what if the king never truly left? The last story might just change everything you think you know. The farmer lived a simple life, tending to his small plot of land just outside Memphis, near enough to Graceland to know when Elvis was home, by the number of cars driving by, or the occasional crowd gathering at the gates. He wasn't exactly best buddies with Elvis, but had crossed paths with him a few times. Elvis had even complimented his tomato crop once, saying they were the best he'd ever tasted. On the day of Elvis's death, the farmer was just about to call it a day, wiping the sweat off his forehead when he saw Elvis walking toward him. There was something strange about the way Elvis moved, like he was lighter than air, almost gliding. The farmer squinted, trying to make sense of it, but it was unmistakably Elvis in one of his casual, off-stage outfits. "I've come to say goodbye for a while," Elvis had said, with a soft, almost apologetic smile. The farmer blinked, and Elvis was gone. The farmer's wife, who had just heard the news of Elvis's death, ran out of the house, and the farmer could hardly believe what he was hearing. The next few days, he kept replaying the scene in his mind. Was it some kind of dream? Why would Elvis appear to him, a simple farmer, not even a close friend? It was as if the king had one last message. But why choose such an ordinary man for something so profound? It left the farmer both baffled and haunted for years to come. He never spoke much about it afterward, but those who knew him could tell that day had changed him forever. Number 9. The Impersonator Who Wasn't. The 1988 Graceland tour was packed, as usual, filled with fans eager to get a peek into the king's life, wandering through rooms where Elvis once laughed, played music, and entertained. Among the group were a few lifelong fans. One even had a tattoo of Elvis's face on her arm, a testament to her devotion. The impersonator appeared as the group was passing through the living room. He was leaning casually against the wall, looking every bit like Elvis in his prime. One woman swore she caught him wink at her. He sang a few bars of "Love Me Tender," and everyone in the group felt chills, the kind that come with hearing a voice that just seems too perfect. The tour guide, oblivious to what was happening in the back of the group, continued her well-rehearsed speech, unaware that half her audience had their eyes glued to this mysterious figure. When the tour ended, the group couldn't stop talking about the impersonator, wondering if he was a new feature. But when they found out that no such person was supposed to be there, it felt like the floor had dropped out beneath them. They weren't the only ones to report something like this. Over the years, others have claimed to see Elvis wandering the halls, sometimes even sitting at the piano, fingers hovering above the keys but never quite touching them. It's as if Elvis never truly left, still entertaining his fans in the only way he knew how. Number 8. The Haunted Apartment. Annette had moved into the apartment because it was affordable and conveniently located. She had no clue about its history, no idea that Elvis had once lived there with his parents during the tough years before fame found him. The apartment had its charm, a vintage kitchen, old wooden floors, and a cozy layout that felt inviting. But almost immediately, Annette noticed strange things. The first time she felt the chill, she had just stepped into the room that used to be Elvis's. It was the middle of summer, yet the air was cold enough to see her breath. She brushed it off, blaming the old air conditioning system. But then the small, inexplicable events began to pile up. Her keys would vanish from the kitchen counter, only to reappear hours later in the bathroom. Doors creaked open even though she made sure they were latched. One night as she lay in bed, she heard the faint sound of a guitar strumming. A soft, gentle tune that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Annette tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was the neighbor's TV, or perhaps she was just tired. But when she heard the whisper, a voice so close yet so far that said, "Don't be cruel," she knew this was something beyond her understanding. Annette spoke to a few neighbors, hoping for a logical explanation, but they only confirmed her fears. The apartment had a reputation, they said. People didn't stay for long, and she wasn't the first to hear the music. Some claimed it was Elvis, drawn back to the place where he had struggled, where his dreams had first started to take shape. For Annette, the charm of living in the king's old home quickly wore off, replaced by an unease that made her decide it was time to move out. We've heard the stories, but what about those closest to Elvis? Their experiences might surprise you. Number 7, the cook's spooky encounters. Mary Jenkins Langston had cooked for Elvis for years, making everything from his famous peanut butter and banana sandwiches to elaborate Southern dinners. She knew his tastes, his moods, and even his quirks. After he passed, she stayed in the house he had gifted her, a modest but comfortable home not too far from Graceland. It was there that the strange events began. At first, it was just the feeling of being watched, an unsettling sense that someone else was in the room. Then one morning as she applied her makeup, she saw him, Elvis, standing behind her in the mirror, smiling. It was the briefest of moments, but it felt so real that Mary dropped her makeup brush, her heart pounding. She tried to dismiss it, thinking it was just her grief playing tricks on her. But the incidents kept happening. She heard knocks on her bathroom door, even when she was alone. Sometimes, while napping on the couch, she felt a gentle tug on her toes, a playful gesture Elvis used to do when she dozed off in the middle of cooking. It was as if he was still there, not ready to say goodbye. Friends and family urged her to move, to leave the house behind, but Mary refused. She believed that Elvis was just trying to look out for her, to remind her of the connection they shared. To her, the ghostly encounters weren't frightening, they were comforting, a sign that he hadn't forgotten those who had been close to him. Number 6, Las Vegas and the Spotlight Ghost. Wayne Newton was no stranger to the stage, but taking over for Elvis at the International Hotel was no small feat. The pressure was immense. Everyone knew those were big shoes to fill. The night of the incident, Newton was in the middle of a heartfelt tribute to the king, singing a medley of his greatest hits, when suddenly, the lights went out. The entire theater was plunged into darkness, save for a single spotlight that illuminated Newton. He squinted up at the balcony, and there, standing bathed in the soft glow, was a figure, tall with dark hair and a familiar smile. It was Elvis, or at least, it looked just like him. Newton's voice faltered for a moment, his heart racing. The figure gave a small sigh, almost as if in approval, and then vanished. The lights came back on and the audience, oblivious to what had just happened, erupted in applause. Backstage, Newton's bandmates confirmed they had seen it too, a figure in the balcony watching over the performance. It was a story Newton shared only with close friends, but word got out and soon fans were flocking to the International, hoping for their own glimpse of the king. The balcony became a sort of shrine, a place where people would leave flowers and notes, convinced that Elvis still watched over the stage that had once been his kingdom. Number 5, the locked penthouse. The Westgate Hotel penthouse was once Elvis's home away from home, a luxurious retreat where he could escape the frenzy of fame. In 2002, a film crew received special permission to film a documentary about his time in Las Vegas, focusing on his legendary performances and his private life in the penthouse. But from the moment they arrived, things were off. The door, which should have been open, was locked from the inside, the deadbolt engaged. Maintenance had to be called, and even they were puzzled. There was no way to lock the door from outside. Once inside, the crew found the air thick, almost stifling, as if the room itself was holding its breath. They set up their equipment, but the cameras, fully charged just moments before, began to drain rapidly. No matter how many batteries they replaced, the power seemed to vanish. Then there was the pool incident. A heavy metal chair, one that had been placed far from the edge, somehow ended up in the water, creating a loud splash that startled everyone. The crew members exchanged uneasy glances, each of them thinking the same thing but too afraid to say it out loud. Was Elvis's spirit still here playing tricks on them? The atmosphere grew more oppressive, and by the end of the day, the crew was eager to leave. The footage they captured was eerie, glitches, strange shadows, and moments where the audio picked up faint, unexplainable sounds. The documentary never mentioned the haunting, but those who worked on it knew they had experienced something beyond the ordinary. Number 4, the red Cadillac. Elvis's red Cadillac was iconic, a symbol of his success and his larger-than-life persona. He loved that car, often driving it through the streets of Las Vegas, windows down, music blaring. Decades later, people still claim to see it. Elvis behind the wheel, looking as cool as ever, cruising down the strip. But the strangest part is where the car seems to vanish. Witnesses describe seeing the Cadillac moving at a steady pace, heading straight for a brick wall, and then nothing. The car disappears as if it had driven right through the wall without a scratch. The location is significant. It's the old entrance to the International Hotel, a private driveway Elvis used during his residency. Some believe it's a residual haunting, a kind of echo from the past, replaying over and over. The stories come from all kinds of people: tourists, locals, even taxi drivers who swear they've seen the red Cadillac appear out of nowhere, only to vanish moments later. The sightings are always the same. Elvis, sunglasses on, one hand on the wheel, looking like he's on his way to another legendary performance. It's as if a part of him is still driving those familiar roads, unwilling to let go of the place where he was happiest. Now, let's dive into the strange things happening at Graceland itself. The mysteries aren't over yet. Number 3, footsteps in Graceland. Graceland was Elvis's sanctuary, a place where he could escape the pressures of fame and just be himself. After his death, the mansion took on a different atmosphere. Still grand, still beautiful, but with an unmistakable sense of loss. Billy Stanley, Elvis's stepbrother, had spent plenty of time at Graceland, both before and after his passing. One quiet evening, as he sat downstairs with Vernon, Elvis's father, they both heard it, soft, deliberate footsteps coming from the second floor. The upstairs had been off limits since Elvis's death, a way to preserve his private space. The footsteps were slow, almost hesitant, as if someone was pacing. Billy looked to Vernon, expecting him to react, but Vernon just shook his head, dismissing it. Later, when Billy brought it up again, Vernon admitted that he heard the footsteps often. It was just part of living in Graceland now. Billy couldn't shake the feeling that it was Elvis, restless, unable to find peace. But when he mentioned it to Elvis's friends, they had a different theory. It wasn't Elvis, they said, but his mother, Gladys. Elvis had always been close to his mother, and even after her death, he felt her presence. The footsteps, they believed, were Gladys, still watching over her son, even in death. The thought was both comforting and unsettling. Graceland wasn't just haunted by Elvis's memory. It was a place where the spirits of those he loved seemed to linger, unable to let go. Number 2, the blue lights at Graceland. The blue lights that line the driveway at Graceland are iconic, a tribute to Elvis's love for the color blue and his famous hit, Blue Christmas. Every year during his birthday week, fans from all over the world gather to celebrate his life and legacy. In 2022, Holly and Heather, hosts of the popular Everything Elvis series, were among the crowd. As they approached the mansion, they noticed something strange. The blue lights had turned white. It wasn't a subtle change. The rich, deep blue had been replaced by a stark, almost blinding white. Holly and Heather were baffled. They had been to Graceland countless times, and the lights had always been blue, especially during such an important week. They weren't the only ones who noticed. Other fans gathered near the gates, whispering and pointing, unsure what to make of it. The next day, the lights were back to their usual blue, as if nothing had happened. The official explanation was a technical glitch, but for those who witnessed it, the timing was too perfect. Some believed it was a sign from Elvis, a way of reminding his fans that he was still there, watching over the place he had called home. The incident became a topic of debate among Elvis enthusiasts. Was it just a coincidence or something more? For Holly and Heather, it was a moment they would never forget, a reminder that even decades after his death, the king still had the power to surprise his fans. Number 1, the final chilling story. Graceland has always been a place of pilgrimage for Elvis fans, a place where they can feel close to the king, even years after his passing. In 2022, during one of the many celebrations honoring his legacy, a group of fans gathered near the gates for a photo. It was a tradition, standing in front of the iconic gates, smiling for the camera, a way to capture the magic of being at Graceland. At first glance, the photo seemed perfectly normal, but as one of the fans looked closer, she noticed something strange. A misty white figure hovering beside her. The shape was faint but unmistakable, almost like a person standing just outside the gates, watching. The fans showed the photo to others, and soon a small crowd had gathered, each of them seeing the same thing, a ghostly figure right there in the picture. Some were convinced it was Elvis, making an appearance during one of the most important weeks of the year. Others thought it might be Gladys, still watching over her son's home. The photo quickly went viral, sparking debates and theories about the paranormal activity at Graceland. Combined with the other strange events, the blue lights, the footsteps, it was hard to dismiss the idea that something or someone was still lingering at Graceland. For those who believed, the photo was proof that Elvis had never truly left. For skeptics, it was just another trick of the light. But for the fans who were there, it was a moment they would never forget. A chilling reminder that the king's spirit might still be watching over the place he once called home. Is it possible that Elvis never truly left, still roaming the places he loved most? Let us know what you think in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more ghostly tales.